In today's video, you're going to learn how to make a crochet face mask using worsted weight yarn. In this particular design, it's worked from the bottom up to the top, and the straps, as you can see here, are actually worked into the border edging, so you don't need to make those and attach them separately. If you do want to work on another closure, we'll show you how to do that. So for this pattern, you'll learn how to use slip stitch, single crochet, and HDC in the back loop only. And working in the back loop only is what helps create that ridging and that arched shape. On the back, we'll show you how we've lined it with a double layer of fabric and hand sewn it into place to provide that stability and blockage. Of course, for this project, you'll need a crochet hook and yarn. We've used Red Heart Super Saver CYC Weight 4. So any worsted weight yarn will work for this project. Just use what's in your stash. For the hook, you can use a US H/8 5mm crochet hook or whatever you need for gauge. You'll also need your lining fabric. So we're using heavyweight quilters cotton. You can also use flannel or high thread count bedding. For the lining, you'll need thread. So we've just used all-purpose thread. And of course your usual tools like a tapestry needle, a ruler, and a hand sewing needle. Now, if you don't want to use the closures that we have here, you can actually use 1/4 inch elastic, and you can also, if you prefer, use 1/4 inch ribbon. So we'll show you how to attach that to your mask at the end of this video. Let's get started. Before we get started, be sure to download the free pattern on Yarnspirations.com. It'll have all your gauge information and the written instructions, so you can follow along. So to start, we'll make a slip knot, and we'll place that on our crochet hook, and then we're going to chain 29. So we'll just count to make sure that we have 29. So we've got 29 there. And for our foundation row, we're going to slip stitch into the second chain from hook. So the first and then the second is here. So we'll just insert our hook, yarn over, draw through, and then draw through that as well. So that creates a low stitch here. And then we're just going to slip stitch again in the next chain. So go through, yarn over, and draw through. And then we're going to do our single crochet, so it's 1 SC in each of next 4. So insert your hook, yarn over, and draw through 2 loops. So as you can see, it's already starting to form an arched shape, which is what helps form the contouring of the mask. So we'll just do 3 more single crochet. And now we're going to work 16 HDC. So yarn over, insert your hook, and pull through, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on hook. So that's your HDC, and we're just going to do that 15 more times. So now that we've worked 16 HDC, we have 6 chains left to work. So we're going to do a single crochet in each of next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the last 2, we're going to work a slip stitch. Whoop. And that's the end of the foundation row. And you can kind of see already that the HDC has given height to that middle section, and the slip stitches have made the either end a bit shorter. So now we're going to turn our work. Make sure you've counted that you've got 28 stitches there. And for our first row, we're going to chain 1. And in this pattern, we're working in the back loops only. So normally you'd insert your hook under both of these loops here. But for this particular pattern, we're actually going to only work into this back one, and that's for the rest of the pattern, really because it helps create the shape. So we're going to slip stitch in the back loop there once, and then a second time. And then we're going to single crochet in the back loop. So you can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to HDC in the back loop for 16 stitches. So we've now worked our 16th HDC, and we have 6 stitches remaining, so we're going to continue working in the back loops only. 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to work 2 slip stitches, 1 in each of next 2 stitches, again in the back loop only. So that's where we are at the end of the first official row. From that point, you're going to actually continue to repeat that until your work from the beginning measures 5 inches. Now, when you're measuring the 5 inches, it's from the center portion here where the HDC is, as that's the taller part. If you were to measure from this side here, it would be a bit shorter. So hit pause and keep going until you get to 5 inches, and we'll continue there. So now we're going to check whether our work from the beginning measures 5 inches in the center. So it's 5 inches, which means that we can finish our repeat and continue with the next row instructions. So in this row, we're going to decrease 1 stitch. We'll start off with a chain 1 as always, and we'll actually continue with what we've been doing thus far, which is a slip stitch in each of the first 2 stitches. Again, working in the back loops only as we were before, and then single crochet in each of next 4 in the back loops only. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to HDC 1 in each of next 7. And the reason is on the one following that, we're going to do a decrease. So let's work those HDC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then we're going to work the HDC 2 together. So for this, you're going to yarn over your hook, draw up a loop in the next stitch, yarn over your hook, draw up a loop in the next stitch again, and then yarn over your hook and draw through all 5 loops on your hook. So that essentially merges 2 stitches into 1. And then we're going to continue working 1 HDC in each of next 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 single crochet, again working in the back loops only of each of next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 slip stitch in each of next 2, back loops only. Whoop. And there, I'm just going to leave this loop for the moment. You have your mask, the body of the mask pattern. From here, we're going to show you all 3 methods of how to add fasteners to your the body of the mask. So If you leave your loop on the hook, I'll show you how to do the chain straps that we have in the finished piece, and you'll actually work an edging around as you work those straps, so it's pretty easy. But if you do have elastic or ribbon, we'll show you how to do that as well. So you'll start by chaining 59, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 56, 57, 58, 59. Now you're actually going to work into this as if it was a foundation chain, and you're going to slip stitch in the second chain from hook. So not this first one here, but this second one here. So we're just going to slip stitch in there. And then you're actually going to continue slip stitching all the way down the chain. So we're approaching the end of our chain here, which means our first strap is almost complete. And we'll just want to make sure that everything is laying nice and flat, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment before we continue. So we want to make sure we've worked all of that chain that we did. Now that we've finished our first strap, we're going to work slip stitches evenly across the side edge of the mask. And doing so will take us to the next corner where we can work our next strap. So I'm just working into the side edge of the rows below that we've worked. And once we've reached this corner, we're actually going to repeat the previous instructions. So we're going to chain 59 again, slip stitch in the second chain from hook, and essentially repeat that process of the strap and the slip stitch edging. So you'll work 3 additional straps and then come around the top again, and then you'll have the body of your mask complete. At this point, we finished working the edging and the chain straps that we've done here. So we started off here, we worked a chain 59, did 58 slip stitches back, then slip stitched evenly down the side edge here, did another strap, continued to slip stitch across the bottom, made another strap, slip stitched up the side, and then we made another strap. And then just to make it even, we slip stitched across the top of the mask and then fastened off. So at this point, we're ready to begin the lining process. So for this, just so you can see everything clearly, because we're working with white fabric, we're just going to put down a brown sheet of craft paper so you can actually see the shapes. So what we have here is our template. Now this template is printable and it's in the pattern PDF. It's for the lining, but if you don't have access to a printer right now, we've done it on a grid, and each one of these squares is equal to 1 inch. So you can sketch it out on a piece of paper. So for the lining, you're going to need 2 of this particular shape. So once you've cut it out of the pattern, you're going to trace it onto your fabric. For the fabric, we recommend using a high quality, heavy duty quilting cotton. So here I've got a white quilting cotton. You can also use high quality bedding with a high thread count, and you can also use flannel. So using the template, I traced onto my fabric and I've cut out 2 layers. You can cut out 4 layers if you'd like for an extra thick finish. It's just that it'll require a bit more maneuvering when you're doing the hand sewing. So here we're working with 2 layers, and what you're going to do is turn under a 1/4 inch all the way around the entire shape. So that's just to hide the raw edges. So you can kind of finger press this in place. One thing I like to do is actually take a pencil and measure out a 1/4 inch with a ruler and mark that with pencil, just so I have a guideline of where to fold. You don't need to iron it in place, but for the purpose of the video, I did find it easier. And if you are batch sewing this, I do find it's practical to iron it in place. So here you can see I've stacked 2 of those lining pieces and folded over 1/4 of an inch. This is going to be on the wrong side. If you are working with really thick fabric and you're finding it's hard to get your curve to lay flat, you can actually take your scissors and just snip at the curves at particular points to help get that fabric to lay flat. But I found it really wasn't necessary once you started maneuvering. So now we've got our crochet mask laying flat with the wrong side facing up. We're going to take our lining fabric and have the wrong side facing down. We're going to center it in place, and all those raw edges are going to be hidden. And we're going to take a piece of all-purpose sewing thread. I've got gray here, and we're going to actually do a whip stitch all the way around, and that will hold it in place. So for this, you're going to just have a knot at the base of your thread, however you typically secure your sewing thread. And just going to thread the needle. So at this point, I'm actually going to put down my thread just to secure the fabric in place. You don't need to, you can kind of hold it as you sew the whip stitch, but for the purposes of being on camera, I'm going to hold it down. You can use clothespins, sewing pins, quilting clips, whatever you've got on hand if you want to secure it. So I've held my fabric in place with clothespins because that's what I've got on hand. I'll go ahead and remove that one. And I'm just going to tack my thread on the wrong side near one of the edges. And from here, we're going to work a whip stitch all the way around. So I put my project down on the table because I prefer to work the whip stitch when my piece is flat. From here, you're just going to continue taking in a little bit of the yarn and then a little bit of the fabric. You don't need a lot to hold it in place. And that forms the diagonal. And you'll continue that process all the way around. So at this point here, we've finished whip stitching the lining in place and we have a finished mask. Alternatively, if you didn't do the crochet straps and you fastened off at the end here and have been waiting to use a ribbon or elastic loop, we'll show you how that's done. So with a piece of elastic, right here we've got 1/4 inch elastic that will be affixed on the wrong side of the mask. So we'll just pretend that these aren't here. And if you were to use a loop, the way it works is you would attach a piece here, and using sewing thread, you can tack it down, and then ensuring that this loop is kept flat and not twisted, you'll bring around the bottom and stitch it in place here. So that forms a loop that will go around your ear. In the pattern, we've called for approximately 6 inches, but you can check whether if your elastic is really tight, you might need to get it up to 7 inches to fit snugly. But 6 inches might work, and just tacking it down securely in both corners will keep that in place, and you'll repeat that for the other side. Alternatively, you can use ribbon. So if you cut 18-inch lengths of ribbon, we've got 1/4 inch here, you can sew that in place on the wrong side here, and then a second one at the bottom, and then repeat for the other side. In this way, you'll have 4 ties, just like the crochet version, and you just want to make sure that whatever you're using is machine washable. So that's all there is to this crochet mask pattern. If you have any questions or comments, leave them for us below. Thanks so much.